Kia ora everyone, back again here with some more custom minifigure ideas, as this is the spooky season and I have a feeling the Simpsons will be the talk of the town for some gamers over the coming months. I wanted to make a really nice looking Treehouse of Horror line of figures, something that people have been asking for from LEGO for years now, and I still believe it would make an amazing series if they decided to release official figures themselves. Now, upon my research, it turns out there's not a whole lot that you can do with these character designs, since the molded heads have to remain the exact same way that they've already been designed, so a lot of people on the internet have very similar ideas to one another. So I'm going to be linking Star Urk's video in the description down below. Their video had some great design ideas that I was really inspired by. If you enjoyed the spooky video, leaving a like and subscribing to the channel then helps to support more videos like this one in the future. I really appreciate all the support we can get here. These here are the minifigures that I will be using in making these customs, and I'll let you know now, a bunch of these are literally just swapping the heads around from Simpsons characters onto other bodies, and quite a few of the figures here are exclusives tragically, but without further ado, let's get started. Obviously starting with Homer, and there's lots to choose from, but I played the hell out of the Treehouse of Horror Monopoly collector's set when I was growing up. The Jack-in-the-Box Homer there on the front cover was always something that I really responded to. Now in a different Star Urk video, they actually made a really cool looking design for the Jack-in-the-Box idea, so I decided to use that as a base model with a couple of minor changes. It's a very easy assembly, as you can see. I decided to use some wedge parts there and smaller tiles to bulk out the walls a little bit so that hopefully it would still look like a box. I also chose to use a mix between shiny and flat silver studs there, so it looks like the spring has some worn out damage to it. And we're using the LEGO Princess Star piece there for the front, and the Toy Winder key piece I think really helps bring it all together, and this is what the overall Jack-in-the-Box looks like. Now to finish off the Homer box, I'm using Homer here and a court jester from the LEGO Castle Advent Calendar, but I'm pretty sure plenty of people have many different Harley Quinns that they could be using here for the hat instead. So with Homer, we're taking only the headpiece, and you can actually sort of get that jester hat to fit on his head. This is by no means authorized by the LEGO group, and I can feel the piece is causing tension there, but for the sakes of this video, I think it works. And I really like this little build here. I think it looks really fun amongst the other minifigures that are using a more traditional design. Obviously there are plenty of better options for spooky Homer variants across the series, and far more iconic ones too, but this was a fun and easy one to do while still using his official headpiece. Bart to me was a super obvious pick, and to just about everyone else out there on the internet as well, he should obviously be the Fly variant. This was actually a minifigure idea that I was already making back when these minifigures released. All we need here is Bartman and the Fly minifigure from the LEGO Series 14 minifigures line, which was entirely based on Halloween ideas, a fantastic release of minifigures that's one of my favorites. We simply remove the Bartman attire and we swap over the head for the Flies. Easy as. Now I went with a Bartman figure here for the traditional orange torso, but if you wanted to, the red shirt variant here is a lot more easier to get your hands on, and that design still looks pretty good if you ask me. This guy is very iconic to the Treehouse of Horror series of episodes. This was my first exposure to the classic horror movies of the Fly series. It's a very eye-catching figure for the roster here, and I'm so happy with how he turned out. Now for Lisa, I'm looking towards the post-2000s releases and basing her on the From Hell parody, which is essentially where Lisa is playing a Sherlock Holmes spoof named Eliza Simpson. So I have here Lisa, and I'm also using the detective minifigure from the 5th LEGO CMF series, as I don't have that Sherlock Holmes book nook yet, and then I'm using SpongeBob here simply for the legs, found on many other figures anyway. I'm removing the detective's head and swapping his head with Lisa's, and then I'm swapping the legs over so that we still have the same height for Eliza. As you can see here, that hat piece will not fit on her head naturally, a real shame. This little story used to be one of my favorites growing up, and I think it makes for a very cool inclusion here. If the series were real, I'd also love to see a Clobber Girl variant of her, but I thought this design would help stand out amongst the others, especially amongst the family. Marge is another obvious pick. It had to be from the witch episode. The problem there is that her skin needs to remain yellow, which again is why ideally we would see official releases from LEGO in the future where they could recolor the Marge mold, simply taking Marge there and swapping her parts around with the Wicked Witch of Oz and essentially just viewing this as a costume for Marge or something. So we're going to remove everything green here and replace all of those green parts with yellow. Obviously this isn't one-to-one with how she looks in the show, but I do still think that this idea works in contrast to the others in the series, and I'm pretty happy with the results. She's not going to be able to wear the witch's hat either, unfortunately, so I've just added some studs to the hat and I'm just going to have Marge hold on to it as an extra accessory. And once again, Maggie was another pretty obvious pick for me. It's gotta be when she's revealed to be an alien. I have here the blue figure from the Everyone is Awesome set, and then Maggie herself of course, and then I'm using the Venus flytrap minifigure from the Halloween CMF series. I'm also using some extra parts there too, but I'll show those off as we get there. From the blue figure, all I'm taking is the torso and I'm removing everything, including the arms. Now for some leg attachments, I'm using these thick ring parts in green, or light attachments is what I think they're often referred to as. We can add Maggie's head on there, and then I'm taking the vines from this guy plus 2 more from any other sets that you have. These make the tentacles for Maggie, and I don't think these vines are too distracting, which is why I chose them. I also have her just elevated here on a translucent brick because she's a bit hard to make stand otherwise. Like I said, it's the obvious pick for her within the Halloween spirit. It's a classic idea that's iconic for the series, and this way the whole family features very different Halloween-y ideas, which I think helps the design for the series overall. Time for some extras here. Mr. Burns as Dracula is another favourite of mine, as he is for many of you watching. Now the same issue as Marge here, unfortunately we're not going to be able to change the colours of his flesh, so he's going to have to remain yellow. I have here good old Mr. Burns and Elrond from the LEGO Lord of the Rings Rivendell set for those ornate robes. All I'm doing here is swapping the flesh tones for the yellow and swapping the heads around, and here we have Mr. Burns as Dracula. I think it still works pretty well though. I feel like you can definitely tell that this is the vampire version of Burnsy, but once again, the ideal pick here would be to have an accurate flesh recoloring. Also, a new style design for the hairpiece would need to be molded onto that head as well. As for Ned, the obvious pick is actually the devil, but I don't have the shirtless yellow torso or the right legs for that pick, unfortunately. I opted for the werewolf version instead, which I think is also iconic for the series, and it's very easy as well. Once again, just simply swapping some parts around between Ned and the werewolf from the Monster Fighter series of releases, because I love the style of prints there and the specially molded head. From Ned, all I'm keeping is the torso, and I'm swapping all of those wolf parts over onto the body. I decided to keep Ned's original arms and not the brown arms of the wolf, because the brittle brown pieces can easily break. One note I have is that I only have the headpiece attached to this mark here, because otherwise if it's fully connected, it's covering up the only part of Ned that remains, and you just simply cannot tell that this is a Ned Flanders torso otherwise. I quite like this one too. The big change here is from the legs, which are appearing in blue, because I wanted to have some of that battle damage detail still visible, and seeing the wolf skin underneath looks really cool to me, even if it's a different color to how Ned's pants appear in the show. He'd also need a very specific mold there if LEGO were to make the real deal for his head. More iconic characters here with Willie as Freddy Krueger. For many younger viewers like myself, this was our first exposure to Krueger, and even this cartoon episode terrified me as a kid. For Willie here, I've got Batman from the Batman vs Superman sets, Ernie from the Sesame Street Ideas release, and then of course Willie. I'm using Batman's legs there for the dual molded boots. The Ernie torso is next, but I'm removing all of his Ernie parts, and I'm swapping them over with Willie the Groundskeeper, and I gave him the pitchfork piece there that's actually from the Krusty Burger set that released in 2025. LEGO seemingly have never made a torso that's red with black stripes that looks identical to how Willie's does from the episode. They haven't even really made a good green and red sweater that's very Krueger-esque to begin with. I do like the boots prints there for the legs, which works, and once again, a hat piece would need to be molded onto Willie's head there in order for the real design to work. I chose to do Dr. Hibbert here as I've always loved the Island of Dr. Moreau spoof episode, so it seemed like a natural pick for the man himself. I'm using Bruce Wayne from the LEGO Batman movie sets, the Dwarf Barbarian there from the LEGO Dungeons & Dragons CMF series, and of course Dr. Hibbert for his headpiece. From Bruce, I removed just the head and hands and I keep that Bond-inspired outfit. I'm taking the neckwear from the Barbarian minifigure and then I'm adding Dr. Hibbert's inclusions. I'm also using the axe piece from the Barbarian as his walking stick. I think this one came together really nicely as well, and Hibbert is a fun side character to include for the series. As far as fixes go, the scarf piece would need to be recolored to better match that Mr. Burns fox color that we see in the show, but otherwise, I think it's pretty clear to see which episode this character is based on. And then finally we have my inclusion of Abe Simpson. I thought the head vampire look would be a fun one to include, mostly because it's an easy style to represent with the regular grandpa head. I have here the vampire from the larger Scooby-Doo set, and the mummy from the smaller set of that theme. I'm also using the clown from the LEGO CMF birthday celebration series, and of course Abe Simpson. From the vampire figure I'm using the torso and legs and the capes, but I'm removing the head and the arms. I'm swapping those arms over for the mummies, and I'm removing those hands. We then add the bow tie from the clown, and now we have our head vampire once we add Abe's head to the mix. Now his cape in the show is a more generic styled one that's coloured as black, but I love the style of having the sharp points there which feel a bit more gothic to me, and yes, it's funny that he is doing a double bow tie. I hoped that the red one would be covering the print on the torso, but what can you do? This here is what the complete series looks like altogether. It was a pretty fun series to make, and hopefully we can see something officially released from the LEGO group in the near future, because toy lines are always making Treehouse of Horror based stuff, so there's clearly a market there for this branding. Thanks everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this custom minifigure series video, leaving a like and subscribing to the channel here does help to support more videos like this one in the future. Ka kite anō, take care, and I hope to see you all next time.